Welcome to everything you've ever wanted to know about drying rooms. Let's quickly go through the agenda today. So we're going to start off with a brief history of our company, Lift and Store. Oh, let me just add one more thing here. We're going to try to make this webinar fairly short, because none of us like to sit through hour-long webinars, and so we're not going to ask that of you. So we should be able to get through this in 25 to 30 minutes. So stick with us. So a brief history of our parent company, Lift and Store. We're going to review our two new products, the 3-in-1 overhead drying rack and our flatbed drying racks. Then we're going to share the results of our drying room survey that we've just completed. And by the way, I want to personally thank all of you that have filled it out. We've had just a tremendous response to that. And then we're going to discuss issues related to drying room best practices. And finally, we will answer your questions. So let's do a brief description of our company. So our parent company is called Lift and Store, and we created the division Lift and Grow about a year ago. Lift and Store has been in business for 29 years. We have done over 10,000 installations in every state in multiple countries. You can see some of the companies where we've done installations on, like REI Co-op has one of our lifts in every one of their stores, and so on and so forth. But that's kind of where we got our start in retail. Our systems are patented or patent pending, and we can do almost anything when it comes to lifting heavy objects. So you might say, how did we get started in drying racks? Well, we had our Lift and Grow division, and one day we were visiting Emily Kowalski at Leafline in Minnesota, and she took out a piece of paper and said, you know, here's what my dream is of what I've wanted. And out of that piece of paper, we created the flatbed rack. Now, we also then were talking to another grower, and they said that they would like to use what we were calling our net rack system to hang. And so we developed a product for them. We don't think this is the last product we're going to develop, and we're very open to listening to growers and hearing what your needs are. So here's briefly some things we do. We do bike lifts, we do boat lifts, we do wheelchair storage, we do clothing racks, and we do security cages. This one on the left is kind of cool. It's the locker room at Michigan State, and all those jerseys are the jerseys of the players that have turned pro. So I guess the point I'm trying to make with all this is we get how to lift stuff, and we get how to do it safely. So all of our machines have these 7 safety features, and they really make a difference. The last thing you want is to put something up and have it fall. We actually talked to one grower that put up their own light lifting system, and right before the tending the crop, the system fell and almost started a fire, but it did destroy much of the crop. So this session today, of course, is all about drying rooms and best practices and all of that. But we also wanted to let you know, we also do adjustable and vertical grow systems. So we have our adjustable overhead grow lights. We can configure almost into anything. We can lift up to 100 lights, and you can move them in increments as little as 1 millimeter. We also do cannabis grow systems. So for the multi-tier grower, we have a solution for you. Now we can put the lights on any of the levels, but we think the one that's most popular from people is to actually, for the top system, have our grow lights hanging, and you can have them hanging from the ceiling. So you get that perfect distance between the light and the canopy. But let's talk about our growing racks. So this first one that Emily helped us invent is the flatbed overhead growing rack. When we first installed one, we built it as a 3 flatbed system, which is what you see in the pictures here. But as soon as that grower got their system in, they said, well, couldn't we put in a fourth level? And we said, yeah. So we said, okay, we'll sell 3 and 4. And then we thought, well, what about the grower with the 10-foot ceiling? How could we help them? And we said, well, we could have just one flatbed for them. So they could put that up into their system and still have 6 feet underneath when it's raised into the ceiling. So I've got a couple of videos here to show you exactly what this flatbed system looks like. Oops, oops, whoopsie. There we go, sorry. So here you can see when you're not using the system, you simply put it into the ceiling and then you lower it when you're ready for it, undo the 2 Velcro straps, and then you're all set. So this is going to save you all kinds of space when you're not doing drying. In this example here, you can see what happens when you lift. So once you got it on the floor, you simply lift it to the level that you would want your grower, so they're always putting the product on at the perfect level, fill it up, and then go to the next section. And here you can see the wiring, that we use in order for you to hang your product on. So now, what about our 3-in-1 overhead drying racks? Well, what does the 3-in-1 mean, first of all? Well, you can have a single 8-foot net drying rack. You can have 2 8-foot net drying racks, or you can have a double rack with 2 bars for use with hangers. The beauty of this is you use the configuration that is best suited for your needs. If you're using the net drying racks, then you can use the 2 bars that come with it to weight the drying rack. And then we also know that nobody wants to buy something and then find out it's not the right product for them, particularly a new product. So because of that, we have a 90-day money-back guarantee that comes with both of our drying net products. So here's just again the 3 different racks: the single rack, the double bar hanger rack, and the double bar net rack. So let's take a look at a little video of our CEO, Chris Benyo, talking about exactly how these work.
Welcome to Lift and Grow's Intergalactic Headquarters, where today we're going to show you our 3-in-1 drying rack. And the reason we call it 3-in-1 is we wanted to make it very simple for growers to be able to use our drying racks in any configuration for them. So the first one we've got with our lovely outdoor plants that's not cannabis, because we don't have a medical license here in Minnesota, is to show you the single rack with industrial netting on it. And the concept is that we're able to raise this into the ceiling, and that you're able to, as you need to.
I don't know what just happened there.
Welcome to Lift and Grow's Intergalactic Starter. So the idea here is that 2 people can work opposite each other, keeping 6 feet apart, and be able to hang product across the netting and raise that into the sky as well. The third configuration that comes right out of the box, so again, it's a 3-in-1 machine, all 3 of these variations are included, is one that we've seen a lot of growers use, which is simply a version of hanger that hangs on the bar. And with this setup, you get 2 bars that are up to 3 feet apart. And again, you've got the option then to be able to load a layer and then raise the bar for the second layer, come back, hang more product. We also give you the option of ordering up to 2 additional bars that can hang on this machine for a total of more than 300 pounds of wet product hanging on at any one time.
Okay, sorry for the confusion there. So let's look at a little bit of the benefits and features of both of our drying rack products. And I'll let you read about the features, but some of the benefits that we're hearing from growers are this frees up valuable floor space. It reduces potential injuries to workers from reaching to hand plants and keeps workers off of ladders. We also believe that consistent spacing of plants ensures fewer problems in drying, and there is a reduced potential for crop loss. So one of the questions you might have, well, what are these going to cost, George? Well, the 3-in-1 hanger system costs between $24.95 and $26.74. And the price difference is, do you want extra bars, which you would want if you're going to use hangers with our system? So in the example here, I took the 2 extra bars with the 3-in-1 system, and it's $26.74. The other pricing on the overhead flat drying rack is between $3,095 and $6,595. And that's all dependent upon how many flatbeds you want, and do you want it painted with an FDA approved paint or not. So in this example, I had mine painted and I had 3 flatbeds, and the price would be $57.95. And you can order these right from our website, and you can go there and you can try the different configurations to see what the pricing is. And if you have multiple purchases you'd like to make, please contact us and we'll get you the pricing on that. So let's get to our survey now and see what the survey results show us. Well, the first thing they show us is most people do not use carts. I guess we had thought maybe that would be more people. And what do they use? Well, they hang from the ceiling or from wall, that's 61%. Use mom's old clothesline, like the picture at the right, or they use netting. Now you may say, wait, that's more than 100%, George. Well, the reason is we let people choose as many things as they use in their drying. Now, how high is your ceiling? Well, not surprisingly, almost 40% had ceilings under 10 feet. And we say not surprisingly because from growers we've talked to, most drying rooms were kind of an afterthought. And there's just kind of a little room over to the side. I mean, this makes sense, right? You want the majority of your product to be used for growing canopy. I mean, the majority of your space to be used for growing canopy. And so the growing room was kind of an afterthought. So anyway, about 40% under 10 feet and then 60% over 10 feet. So what are some of the other problems? Well, one of the biggest problems in drying room, of course, is space. And 61% of growers said that space is a somewhat serious problem. And growers told us this is a growing problem. You get the pun there, growing problem. Because most drying rooms were built too small. And that gets exacerbated then when we look at the advanced growing techniques that people are all using now, which increases the yield and gives you more product. Now we've had a couple growers that have told us, well, I've got a 10-foot ceiling, but I can certainly knock that out because it's dead space up to the height of the rest of our facility. We've also had growers or architects say, as they're thinking about new spaces, of just making the ceilings taller, so they actually can have less room for the drying. Because if you make it taller, you put these machines in, you're not going to need that much room. And again, we're interested, what are you experiencing? Is space an issue for you? So please add any comments that you might have. So this one was surprising to us, and particularly because we really care about worker safety. But only 25% of the growers said that this was a somewhat serious injury. And we'll just say that we think that is short-sighted. We think that this is still a new industry, but once it matures, we're going to have OSHA all the time. In fact, maybe you already do. So kind of the question is, do you want them to be a friend or not? Now, as you all know, with people on ladders, according to OSHA regulations, you have to have 3 places of contact. So if you get your feet and one arm, it's really hard then to be moving up and down the ladder, lifting product, carrying it, and still maintain those rules. We also know there's a lot of ergonomic issues for repetitive motion, particularly when you're doing it over your head. And we'd be interested to see if you've had any problems with that. I was talking to one grower and they had a 7-foot clothesline that they were hanging all their product on. And I said, is that a problem? She says, well, It is, but we try to get around it by hiring tall people so they don't have the motion problems. But with our systems, of course, you would never have that problem because you simply move it to the level that's perfect for everyone. Now, you may not think this is a problem at all. If you're interested in this more, you can read our white paper on our website called Labor and Safety in the Workplace. So, what are your biggest concerns? Well, your biggest concerns are temperature, humidity, having a consistent recipe for what to do, and air movement. And those were kind of universal between you of saying that's the big problem. That's the 70 to 80% big problem. So in a second here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the comments that you made about best practices. But before we do that, Chris Benyo is on the call with us, and I think he's managing the chat and the Q&A. And Chris, if you're available, do you have, are there any comments from people so far?
Yeah, George, great job so far. We do have one. Somebody's just asked, what if I'm just drying flour instead of the whole stalk? That's the stuff that we've shown, right? Is we've sort of designed everything around people who are cutting stalks and drying the whole thing. What if I'm a guy who just does flour? Do you have a solution?
And
see, everybody, George is stopping me from doing product development. He wants me to focus on the things that we have. However,
that's true, Chris.
We've already talked through this issue, and the flatbed drying rack has got these food grade cables on it today. We can easily make that mesh and then put the tiers closer together. So if that's something that you guys are doing and are looking for a solution to be able to raise and lower something that is just flour, then we can handle that as well. And then let's see, George, one of the other ones was, what kind of power does it take to do this? And the answer to that is that we use these particular lifts use just standard 120 volt or 110 volt household power, and they use very little electricity because they only use power when they run. So it's a 15 amp circuit. The machine pulls a couple of amps and a couple hundred watts when it runs, which is usually just for seconds at a time. Let's see, we've got another question here. What do we have in place to deal with mold buildup? And the answer there, we've created these things to be able to give you more space. We are currently dealing with a couple of growers right now, and they're kind of dry room consultants around dehumidification and air handling to get what we think are the best practices. So our view is to keep them at the right distance apart. We're not exactly sure what that right distance is, but we're working with various consultants to have us say it's 2 feet, 4 feet, or whatever it is, and then the proper air movement to be able to keep that mold down. And one of the other questions we got here is, how long do we recommend drying? And we have learned so much about this industry in the last year, but we're still not in a position where we're recommending how people do things, right? We've read that it's that you wait until the bud breaks and kind of inspect your room during the course of the process. And one of the ways to inspect the room, you can still raise and lower these things a lot and be able to check the top level. You may have to get up on a ladder there. No, not that we want anybody on ladders, but the idea is that have room to be able to inspect. Calculating the size of a dry room, that's a really interesting situation. We've worked with a couple of consultants who have laid out a flat dry room where somebody can only reach 8 feet. And as we've been discussing this with them, they have actually shrunk the size of the dry room and used the rest of the space for production or whatever else they were going to do. So they repurposed it. And so I think that's one of the things that was with your architect and your consultant and looking at your harvest schedule and the volume of product that comes out is the best way to do that ultimate sizing with us in mind. So we know that people have been able to go to smaller rooms. We've also encountered a bunch of folks whose production has gone 20% higher than they thought, and they're just flat out of space. And that's the worst case situation, right? Which is you're out of space and you have product to dry. So we can solve that situation by giving you more space. Even in a room with as little as 10 or 11 feet, we can create a system to make sure that you adequately use all of that space. And then, we're all kind of questions here. George, I think you have this one from the survey. What percent of a facility is dedicated to drying and curing? We have the percentage of relative to canopy, right?
Right.
So it's not
Well, the majority on that, Chris, was under 5%.
Under 5% of the space of the canopy space was devoted to drying and curing.
Yep. And I think that represents a lot of growers that have been in the business for a while. Because what we're seeing, again, going back to the increased yields that people are now experiencing, they're realizing that they are going to need more space. Or maybe they're thinking that before they found out that there actually is a product that you can hang this from the ceiling. Okay, well, Chris, thanks for following up on those questions. And again, if others have, I'm sorry, was there another?
It's worth sharing though, but where we said 5% of canopy, the person just said around 20% of canopy. And it's kind of interesting because we've seen the 10,000 square foot grow facility tends to have a 500 square foot grow room. I mean, that's kind of, we've seen a couple dozen of them now, George, where we've done proposals, and Todd's not able to talk. Todd's our sales engineer. He's the guy who sees this more often, but we'll look at our numbers again and get back to you and kind of see what we're seeing and see if we can't get you some information back.
Good. So now let's go on to the comments that many of you made. And if one of these is your comment and you want to say something more, fine. Or again, if this brings up another question, please put it out there for Chris to answer for you. So what are some of your comments? Best practices. Sufficient airflow in reducing plant count, so not at full room capacity. I thought that was a real interesting one because you look at a lot of the photos on the internet or the places we've been, and many of them are at full capacity. So this person says, having a dense layout, proper defoliation is key to maintaining quality of flower. Another one, and this was kind of a theme throughout, was be patient, be slow. Do not rush the process. Another one, make sure you have enough dehumidification for the first 3 days of drying. Don't do it the standard way. It's too slow for large producers. Proper environmental control makes rooms easier to work with. So that obviously is a large grower that's made that comment. And then slow dry, 60% humidity, some air movement in a dark room. That 60%, 50 to 60% humidity is something you see a lot in the research. Again, the air movement is important also. Here's some more. A controlled environment has always stirred me in the right direction. Here's one I really love. Oh, that would be proprietary information. I'm not sharing that with you guys. Well, I guess this guy's really figured something out. He doesn't want other people to know. This one says, I like to cure my weed in a cool, dark place with slight air movement. Again, he says, I don't like to rush the drying in any way. Now, again, we don't know what's right, but we're hearing more about 4 to 8 days as being the proper time, and that you'll know when you're able to snap it and it breaks without holding on to any of the side of the plant. Some way to contain material and debris, proper airflow temperature and humidity control. then this one, use lift and grow. I think that was, Chris, I think that was the response I made. I'm not sure about that, but it could have been. Got to put a pitch in there, right? This one I really love. Dry it, dude. Don't bogart it. Make your people happy by giving them free product. Well, of course, that would make everybody happy. And then another guy says, drying isn't too tricky. It's getting the cure right. That is tough. So Chris, are there any other responses or comments we've had from anyone?
We had the freeze drying question, George, which is something we don't know much about. Let's see. What does bogart it mean? I think that
don't keep it to yourself.
I don't know the origin of that phrase, but for some reason it means don't keep it to yourself.
Yeah, don't keep it, don't bogart that. Yeah, there's a lot of those old phrases I say now, and none of the young people have any idea what I'm talking about.
Yes.
All right, anything else there, Chris?
Nope, I think that's it, George.
All right, so if you have other questions, please, you can contact us at info@liftandgrow, or you can call us at 651-777-1554. So with that, I'd like to thank you all for attending today. And if you have any questions or anything, please let us know. And we're really pleased that you were able to join us today.